15th place Queen's Park Rangers head to 16th place Preston North End on Good Friday. So in this preview, I caught up with Oli Hargreaves from the Butterpie podcast to get his thoughts on the Lily White season to date, players to watch out for, and his score prediction. If you're new to the channel, I'm Connor, aka Hoopsa. I produce QPR match previews, reactions, interviews, and features. So if you enjoy this one, make sure you hit like, subscribe, follow, or leave a rating, depending on where you're tuning in from, and let's get into it. Hi Oli, welcome back to the channel. How are you?
Yeah, all good. Thanks, Connor. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. Obviously, we're here to chat Preston North End v QPR on Good Friday. Preston currently sit a place and a point behind Rangers in the Championship in 16th. How would you describe this season in a nutshell?
I think it was the last time I was on. I reflected on it as a roller coaster, and it's probably the right terminology to use. But only this time, we're coming into the game where we're probably at the lower end of a steep drop. So it's been ups and downs. It's been a stabilising season, but I think all fans are just waiting and grasping for the season to end, and so we can look forward to a big summer ahead.
Paul Heckingbottom replaced Ryan Lowe after just one match in charge. He was obviously in charge for 2.5 seasons. What's the fan consensus on Heckingbottom getting to the end of the season? Was it the right decision to change the manager in the end?
I think it was. It should have happened in the summer. And I don't think Lowe should have been allowed to be able to build the squad that he wanted come summer, because then obviously Heckingbottom's come in. He's wanting to stamp his style of play. He's wanting the players that he needs. So I think it was a bit of throwing Heckingbottom in the deep end, especially after only a couple of games. But once they made the decision to back Lowe, it was only a matter of time within the season that he was going to get the sack. The fan relationship had absolutely deteriorated, and it was the right decision to make a change. I didn't expect it as early as that, but it was the right decision, and I think Heckingbottom's come in. He's done well. Obviously, it's not his players, but next season's the real one to be able to decide whether or not he'll be the right man to take us forward. I believe he is. You've just got to give him the best opportunity, and that's by allowing him to bring in his players this summer.
And what position are Preston in to allow him to do that in the summer? Are you expecting to spend? Is there going to be much changeover in those players?
Well, Peter Ridgedale mentioned that he's expecting at least 10 new players to come in, so quite a big turnover of players. Obviously, there's quite a few that are out of contract at the moment. Some big names in Freddie Woodman, Robbie Brady, to say the least. Obviously, Emil Reese as well, and I believe that all of them are going to get moved on. So it's going to be a big summer. Hopefully, he gets backed. I know North End with finances aren't the largest. You're looking towards only a couple of million to spend, and you're looking at trying to bring in about 10 players, which is lunacy. So what I wouldn't be shocked to see is to see kind of the rebuild be brought upon after a player sale. There's been quite a lot of talk about Militon Osmaic, obviously for the wrong reasons, but there has been talks of obviously bigger clubs in Europe closely monitoring. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Militon Osmaic move on for a figure which I probably expect about 5, 6, 7 million, and then obviously if you're allowed to reinvest that, then it gives you a much greater opportunity to be able to bring in the players that are needed.
Now, you mentioned that steep drop over the past couple of months. That's a phrase that QPR fans will be very familiar with. It's one win in the past 11 for Preston. What's been the biggest issue during this run of fixtures?
Mentality of the players. It seems to happen every year. When there seems to be nothing to play for. I know North End, you're probably still within touching distance of the relegation battle. With 7 points clear with 4 games to go. So realistically, if you're putting your money on North End to go down, you're probably going to lose it. So it's sun loungers from March onwards for North End, and it's the mentality of the players that, we may not be here next season, or we've got nothing to play for, and it's that it leaves a sour taste in a couple of fans' mouths, because it's realistically they're watching their team year on year just give up, and it's the mentality of that is it's shocking. It shows that they don't really want to play here. They don't really want to fight for the badge, and I think it's slowly getting to Heckingbottom, no matter the fact of how big of a job this is, to be able to change the mentality of the players, change the mentality of the club, and get us firing on all cylinders. Because before it, we had a great run in the FA Cup. We held Aston Villa to not scoring for about 60 minutes, which obviously, if you watched Villa yesterday, you'd be fairly pleased with that. So, yeah, it's just mentality, and it has to change, and I think it will change, hopefully, next season.
So which players should QPR fans watch out for on Friday afternoon, and where can Rangers get at Preston?
So especially, I think I mentioned him last time, Maz Frockiar. He's been asked a couple to provide a bit more in terms of goals and assists this season by Heckingbottom, especially in the past few weeks. But in his last 2 games, he's made 3 assists, and looks like he's starting to build the form that he can be capable of. So if we're able to find him within the pocket of space, just behind the striker, then he could become a real threat for QPR. Another one, obviously, Militon Osmanic, our top goal scorer this season. He's turning into a good championship striker, so to speak. His hold-up play is getting better, and obviously, if he's able to get in behind, then usually in one-on-ones, he buries them. He's a very, very clinical striker in one-on-one situations. But where, obviously, QPR can exploit North End, I think I said last time, speeding behind the back line, and so to speak, it happened. As long as you're able to get in behind the back line of HMS Lindsay and Andrew Hughes, who looks like he's running in treacle, I think you'll be on to a good day. So yeah, I think if you're able to find pockets of space and then be able to, get someone in behind, then I think QPR may or may not be able to get some points from this game.
Now, QPR have won 4 of the last 5 fixtures against Preston. That's one of the few times I feel like I've been able to pull out a positive record in one of these previews. So to round us off, let's get your score prediction for Good Friday.
Yeah, so fortunately it's at Deepdale, which we're notoriously good at. I think we've only had 1 league defeat at Deepdale all season, which is a cracking statistic. So that being said, I don't think we're going to win, but I'm going to remain positive and say a 1-1 draw.
Great. Well, Oli, it's been brilliant to have you back on the channel. All the best for the rest of the season after Friday.
Cheers, and hopefully see you next season.
Massive thanks again to Oli for joining me for this preview. Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter and check out the Butter Pie podcast via the links down below. As I say, until the last few games, I think a lot of QPR fans and those of other mid-table championship sides will resonate with how Oli described Preston over the last couple of months. And in fact, over the last 10 matches, QPR and Preston are also just a point apart, having picked up 9 and 8 points respectively. Thankfully, Rangers have seemed to have kicked themselves into gear over the last couple of games and now head to Deepdale unbeaten in 3. Interestingly, despite being mid-table for home form, Preston are one of just 4 teams to have only lost 2 matches or less at home all season, the first being the 2-0 loss to Sheffield United on the opening day that saw Ryan Lowe depart, and the second a 3-1 loss to eventual playoff seekers Bristol City at the start of November. Having only won 3 matches on the road by contrast, they're another team that seem to have been kept safe by a strong home record. 7 of those 8 points in the past 10 matches have all come at home, with 5 draws and a win over Portsmouth. From a QPR perspective, this one could really go either way. We played with so much more confidence against Bristol City after beating Oxford last Wednesday, particularly in those opening 25 minutes, so if we play like that again, I could easily see us coming out with a win despite Preston's record. The thing is, having now hit the 50-point mark, there's every chance those Sun Loungers that Oli talked about could be willed back out too. So Marty's biggest task will be to avoid that, make sure we go into this game with the right mentality, and make sure that these last 4 fixtures are used productively. With the injuries we currently have, I imagine we'll see a pretty similar side to last weekend. For me, I'd like to see Madsen given the chance to keep on building on those last 2 performances, and hopefully some more minutes for Collie too, so he can try and end the season on a high ahead of the summer. So lastly, as usual, let's round off with a score prediction. Unusually for QPR, we have a pretty good record against Preston with 4 wins and a draw in our past 7, and at Deepdale alone we've won 3 and drawn 1 of our past 5 visits with back-to-back victories in our last 2. For me, I'm going to back us to continue with this new run and go for 2-1 Rangers. Thank you so much for tuning in for this match preview. If you're new to Hoopsa and you've enjoyed this one, please consider hitting like and subscribe, and maybe I'll see you next time for my Preston North End match reaction. Come on you Ars.